This is WICR.
Hello, Iona College. This is Ian Sachs with the second weekly installment of the Iona College the Iona College Athletics Spotlight interview. I am joined today by Coach John Killingbeck from the Iona volleyball team. Coach, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you for having me. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited about you guys having this tournament this weekend, the Iona tournament. The first one, we've got 4 teams playing here. Iona will be playing against Bryant tonight in the second game of the evening, and we also have Hartford and LaSalle playing in the first game. We've got 6 games in 2 days. Coach, tell me a little bit about the tournament.
You know, it's first off, it's great to be at home. Our fans are amazing. Last year in conference, we went 8-1 at home. We wanted to get more home games on the schedule, so we set up this tournament. It's the first time we've had a non-conference tournament since I've been here. This is my 4th year here, and so we were lucky enough to get Hartford, LaSalle, and Bryant to come join us. Obviously, Bryant coming out of the Massachusetts area, LaSalle out of the Philly area, and then Hartford, obviously, Connecticut. So it's kind of nice. We're all kind of relatively close to each other.
Yeah, hopefully with this tournament trying to set up a few local rivalries, non-conference.
Right, you know, and it's great because it's 4 different conferences. So we get to kind of see how our MAC brand stands up against the A10 and the other conferences represented by these schools.
Coach, which team do you see as, say, your toughest opponent this weekend, since you're going to have the opportunity to play all 3?
You know, they all are different. They're all very good in different ways. But honestly, our biggest opponent is ourselves. You don't play the opponent, you play the game. And if we can play with confidence and we step out there and stay disciplined, we should have a lot of good success. But now, from a scouting point, you're going to look at LaSalle is probably the biggest name with the A10 name, the new coach for them. They beat Ryder this week in 4 games, so that's probably the highest competition. But we're looking at it as we just have to be ourselves.
As I said, Iona kicking off the tournament, or actually LaSalle and Hartford kicking off the tournament tonight at 4 p.m. at the Heinz Athletic Center. Iona's first game in the tournament, their first home game against Bryant tonight at 7, and then we have games at 10-1, 4-7 tomorrow. Iona playing Hartford at 1 and LaSalle at 7 tomorrow. Coach, talk about how it's able to. How good does it feel to have the program where, you know, now you can set up your own tournament after coming off of last year's success, saying, you know, now teams want to come to play us?
You know, it's amazing, and it's hard work put in by our players, and, you know, the support from our staff. You know, it's great feeling to be able to walk into our gym and know we own this gym. You know, we're 8-1 last year at home. It's great to have teams go, we want to go play there because it's a tough environment to play, and it's going to make us better for our conference season. And it's great that all of these coaches just agreed, like, hey, let's just meet up and let's just play.
And yeah, now with there's a new scoreboard in the gym. Just talk about what it's going to be like to step onto the floor tonight, first time at home this season.
You know, it's going to be amazing. You know, Rick Cole helped get us that scoreboard through his work. It'll be great. They're amazing, brand new scoreboards. First chance to check them out tonight, and it's only going to enhance the fan experience. And as we know, we try really hard to put up a good product for all of our fans, the students and staff of Iona, and the scoreboards are just going to make it that much more exciting.
Now, Coach, so far this season, you've been playing in, you've had 2 non-conference tournaments. One is at Penn State, number 1 team in the country, and then the second one was at the Sacred Heart tournament in Fairfield, where actually you met up with Hartford. So talk about the keys from that game and how you're going to learn from that when you match up with Hartford tomorrow.
You know, it's exciting because, to be honest, Hartford beat us. We did not play well, and they did. And when that happens, we're going to lose. That's the reality of sports. It's a great challenge for our girls to step up and show Hartford that wasn't us at our best, and it wasn't. And our girls know that, and they've worked really hard this week to bounce back. The thing for us that we've got to figure out how to slow down is Hartford has a good right side. She hits a very sharp ball and hits it pretty much flat down. So we've had to make some adjustments on how to slow her down. And if we do that, we can then run our offense back. And when we run our offense at our tempo, we're pretty tough to stop. But first, it starts with defense.
Now, you guys, 1-6 so far this season. You're only one coming at St. Francis in Brooklyn. But you guys have had a tough schedule playing Penn State out of the Big Ten, the defending national champions, Texas Christian out of the Big 12. How does your strength of schedule so early in the season, how does that prepare you for the conference schedule coming up?
Well, I use last year as a prime example. We set up our preseason to play teams that jump higher, hit harder, go faster than what we'll face in conference. Last year, I think we came into conference last year with something like a record of 1-10. We ended up going 16-14 to finish the year. We ended up going 13-5 in conference. So obviously for us, yes, non-conference games matter. It's a win or it's a loss, but it's really about getting us more battle tested for conference. And so when we step across that court from Fairfield, we look at them and go, they're good. They're not Penn State. And our girls found out that they can hang with Penn State for a while. Or, you know what? We went for TCU, and guess what? If TCU's in our conference, they win our conference. So we can step across the court with that confidence going, you're good. You're not Penn State. You're not Texas Christian.
Coach, you mentioned Penn State, number one team in the country, have won, I think, 5 of the last 7 national championships. Talk about the experience of being able to step onto that court and saying you're playing against the best team.
It's huge. Our players love it. Like, you get to go play that team at their gym, and that's a life memory. That's something you're telling your kid about 25 years from now. And just the experience of seeing what the crowd there, they filled their gym. There wasn't an open seat in that gym. And so for our girls to go out and play in front of that environment was huge. Now, volleyball-wise, we had to learn how to dig a really hard hit ball. We had to learn how to be successful and on offense against a really big block. And all these things that we learned to be successful against Penn State, we can then have success against other teams because they're not quite as good as Penn State.
Ian Sachs joined here by volleyball head coach John Kellingbeck, whose team went 16-14 last year. Conference program record 13-5 in the MAC. Coach, last year you were picked 5th in the MAC, and then you came out, surprised everyone, ended up 3rd. How does your experience now back with, I believe, 10 players from last year's team? How are they going to take that experience from last year and now build on it now that they were picked 3rd in the preseason this year?
I think the biggest thing is our team last year understood, this is what we have to do if we want to be successful. They understand the system. They understand the effort that's needed day in and day out. And they understand the drive it takes to be great. Now, with that being said, we return 5 seniors, and that's a huge advantage over most teams. And I think that's something that I'm really excited about this year is all those kids came in as freshmen my very first year. They've had no other coaches. They've had no other systems. They understand what we're trying to do, and they understand it's their last year, and they want to go out on top.
Speaking of going out on top, last year in the MAC championship, you guys fell to Marist in 5 games. An excruciating defeat, so close. What memory did that leave in the team's mind, and how did that prepare them in the off season?
It's one of those ones where we don't want to take anything away from Marist. They won that match. But I think if you ask any of our players, we know that we're just a few plays away from winning that match. We had a big lead in game 2 and lost it heading into halftime, and we were down 0-2 and came back to win the next 2. But I think our girls understand, we're so close, and they believe in themselves. And so now that drives us to understand, it's there. There's a saying that, the first time you get to the playoffs was to get the experience of the playoffs. The second time you go to the playoffs is to win the playoffs. And obviously we're hoping that's the case this year.
Iona picked 3rd behind Fairfield at number 1 and Marist at number 2. Coach, those were the 2 teams that met in the championship match last year. What is it going to take to advance past one of them this year in the semifinals and make it to that championship game?
It's going to take discipline on defense and understanding who we are. And we talk about this every day. We talk about how we touch everything on defense. Since I've been here, we've never finished outside the top 20 in the nation in digs. So we touch everything on defense. And then offensively, we want to be one of the fastest offenses in all of college. So for us to take down a Fairfield or take down a Marist in the playoffs, it's going to happen with those base, lines for success. Now, we did beat Fairfield last year twice. We had a season sweep over them, and we beat Marist last year in the regular season. So there's no team that our girls haven't beaten, and that's a huge step forward for our program.
Two of your top players this year are senior Katrina Warren and junior Natalie Ziskin. Both of them were postseason All-MAC last year and preseason All-MAC this year. How are you going to need to lead, use them as your top players this year to build and have experience?
They're amazing players. And they were voted on based off of what they did last year. But last year. They have to go out and reprove themselves again this year. The thing I will say is, they're great players to have, but we have other great players. And I think the one that doesn't get enough credit is Taylor. Taylor's our starting right side, and she's had a tremendous start to the season. And I think she's somebody that's going to be up there with Natalie, with Katrina, as postseason All-MAC players this year. And the three of them really help balance and run our offense. And the great part is both Taylor, Katrina, and Natalie understand it's just as important to be on defense too.
Taylor leading the team in kills this year with 67, with Katrina right behind her. Coach, when you have Katrina and Taylor up front and Natalie setting your offense, how much of an advantage is that? Do you feel that you have such three really key players that have helped you so far?
It's obviously it's great. We talk all the time though, offensively, if we have one hitter doing their job, we're going to lose. If we have two hitters, we're going to overtime. If we have three hitters doing their job, we're going to win. And I think that's really true for this year, is we expect Katrina and Taylor to be on every game. You're a senior, and that's part of being a senior. Now, Shannon Ward, Carly White, and our freshman Cassie, one of them has to step up every game to kind of fill that third hitter role. And when we do that, we're going to be very tough to beat. But it starts with Katrina and Taylor can't have off games, and they understand that as seniors, that's what is expected of them, and so far they haven't had those off games.
Now, talk about senior libero Katie Marabella. She's been in the program for a while, has had a few different positions. Now she's filling in it as the libero role. Talk about how she's been able to step into that role and really set your defense.
Katie's an amazing person, and every day she comes into the gym trying to work hard. And that's what she wants to be known as somebody that came in to work hard every single day. Defensively, she was playing a new position in left back, which was new to her. We've actually decided to move her back to middle back where she feels a little more comfortable, and we're expecting great things. We saw great things this week in practice by moving her to middle back, and that really has helped reset what our defense is.
Now, after the tournament this week, you have Western Michigan, another non-conference game, but then you get right into the conference with the Connecticut trip next weekend, Fairfield and Quinnipiac. Opening up against Fairfield, the defending MAC champion, what message are you looking to send to the rest of the league right off the bat?
Fairfield's tough. When we won there last year, it was the first time Iona had won there since 1998. So that's a tough place to win at, and we did that last year. They have a new coach, they have a new setter, and so they're a different team this year. But I think we're coming out trying to say, look, not only can we beat a good team, we can beat a good team on the road. And I think in the MAC, everybody is good at home. It's the teams that can go out and beat the good teams on the road that separates yourself. And we're looking to make that separation this year, that we can go on the road and get those good wins.
And now, following week, when you come back home, you have Siena and then Marist. So quickly, first four conference games, you have a game against each of the top two teams. How good does that feel to be able to have a barometer against those two teams early in the season, and then so that you can kind of gauge yourself as the season progresses.
Well, it's kind of like our non-conference schedule. We want to be battle tested because when you put us under pressure, we're going to find where we're weak. But this is the strength of our program, is when we find we have a weakness, we go out and we fix it. Last year, we were the only team in the MAC to be top 4 in every statistical category. But it's because of the staff and the players that we saw where we were struggling and found a way to go fix it. And so by playing the two top teams, plus Siena was, I believe, voted 4th this year, so 3 of the top 4 teams in the conference in the first 2 weeks, it's nice that we have them early. We can see where we're struggling and have plenty of time to make that fix before the playoffs.
Well, before we get into the MAC part of the schedule, we've got the Iona tournament this weekend. Coach Killingbeck's going to be a very busy man with 6 games at the Hines Athletic Center over the next 2 days. So definitely stop by to check out your Iona Gales in action. We've got Friday night, LaSalle and Hartford at 4, and then the Gales home opener against Bryant at 7. Tomorrow, full slate of games at 10 a.m., LaSalle and Bryant. And then at 1, Iona's back in action with Hartford. At 4, it is Hartford and Bryant. And then finally, closing out the weekend, Iona plays LaSalle at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. All games are at the Hines Athletic Center. Coach, thank you so much for taking this time out of your busy schedule, especially this week with the tournament coming up, and the best of luck.
Thank you, and go Gals.
Hi, this is David Wright, and you're listening to WICR.